The 1970s gave us plenty of music that still sounds perfectly normal today, but scattered throughout the decade's biggest hits were some genuinely odd songs that somehow became massive successes, built around dead animals, personal ads, and even cannibalism, all sitting comfortably on the same charts as everything else. So today, we're counting down strange 1970s songs we thought were totally normal. Number 12, Dead Skunk by Loudon Wainwright III. Released in 1972 on the album the Third, this song was written after Wainwright actually encountered a dead skunk on a road near his home in Charlottesville, Virginia. It became his only song to reach the Billboard Hot 100 Top 40, peaking at number 16. A surprising commercial breakthrough for a folk singer known mostly for wry, observational material. Wainwright was often grouped with the singer-songwriter movement of the early 1970s, alongside artists like James Taylor and Randy Newman, but this particular song leaned fully into comedy rather than introspection. The recording features a simple, upbeat arrangement built around acoustic guitar and a loose, almost talking blues vocal delivery. Radio programmers at the time were sometimes unsure what to make of a song. With such an unglamorous subject, but its catchy chorus and unusual premise made it stand out on playlists otherwise filled with romantic ballads. Wainwright has performed the song for decades since, and it remains a fan favorite at his live shows, even though most of his catalog moved in a very different direction. It's often cited by music historians as an example of how much room commercial radio had in the early 1970s for genuinely strange, small-scale novelty records to slip through and become hits. The song's success also gave Wainwright a level of mainstream visibility that didn't fully match the rest of his catalog, which tended towards sharper, more personal songwriting about family and relationships. He has said in interviews that he never expected the song to become his signature hit, given how much of his other material dealt with far more serious subject matter. Even so, the novelty of the song opened doors for him within the folk and comedy circuits, and it introduced his name to television and radio audiences who might never have otherwise encountered his more introspective work. Decades later, the song still gets requested at his live performances, often introduced with a joke about how a song about roadkill became the thing most people know him for. Number 11, Frankenstein by the Edgar Winter Group. Released in 1972 as part of the album They Only Come Out at Night, this instrumental track reached number 1 on the Billboard Hot 100 in May 1973. The song got its unusual name during the editing process, when guitarist Rick Derringer and the band spliced together pieces from a much longer jam session recorded during live performances and studio sessions. With so many cut and reassembled sections of tape, the physical reel reportedly looked like it had been stitched together from mismatched parts, prompting someone in the studio to compare it to Frankenstein's monster, and the name stuck. Edgar Winter played multiple instruments during the recording, including keyboards, saxophone, and a strap-on synthesizer that allowed him to move around the stage while playing, an unusual setup for the time. The song features an extended drum solo by Chuck Ruff, something rarely given so much space on a chart-topping single. Because it had no lyrics at all, its success was somewhat unusual for a decade dominated by vocal-driven pop and rock, and it remains one of the most recognized instrumental rock songs to ever reach number 1 in the United States. The band had originally performed a much longer version of the piece during live shows, often stretching well past 10 minutes with extended improvisation from each member. When it came time to prepare a studio version for radio, the editing process became so extensive that engineers reportedly lost track of how many individual splices had gone into the final master tape. Winter has said in later interviews that he was initially unsure whether trimming the piece down so aggressively would hurt the song, but the tighter structure ended up making it far more effective for radio play than the sprawling live arrangement had ever been. Its success also helped bring instrumental rock back into mainstream visibility at a moment when vocal-driven singles otherwise dominated nearly every chart position around it. Number 10, Spiders and Snakes by Jim Stafford.
I don't like spiders and snakes, and that ain't what...
Released in 1974, this song was co-written by Stafford and David Bellamy, who would later find fame as part of the duo the Bellamy Brothers. It reached number 3 on the Billboard Hot 100, becoming one of the biggest hits of Stafford's career. The song tells the story of a young man who tries to use a spider as a prank to get closer to a girl he's interested in, only for the plan to unfold in unexpected ways. Stafford had built a career blending country music with comedic storytelling, and this song became one of the clearest examples of that style, reaching a mainstream pop audience. It was recorded in Nashville, where much of Stafford's early material was produced, and it helped him land a network television variety show shortly afterward.
I don't like spiders and snakes.
Yeah.
And that ain't what it.
The song's blend of folksy humor and a genuinely catchy melody made it a staple of oldies radio for years, even as straightforward novelty songs from the era eventually faded from regular rotation. Stafford went on to have a long career in Branson, Missouri, where novelty and comedic country music found a lasting home long after mainstream radio moved away from that style. Before this song, Stafford had already built a reputation in Nashville as a session guitarist and songwriter for other artists, and its success gave him the platform to step fully into a performing career of his own. The song's success also led to a string of follow-up singles built around similarly light, story-driven humor, though none matched its commercial peak. Stafford later credited the song's crossover appeal to its balance of a genuinely catchy melody with lyrics that worked as a complete, self-contained story, rather than relying on a single joke or gimmick to carry the whole song from start to finish.
I don't like spiders and snakes, and that ain't what it.
Number 9. The Night Chicago Died by Paper Lace.
I heard a pray the night Chicago died.
Released in 1974, this song was recorded by the British group Paper Lace and reached number 1 on the Billboard Hot 100 in the United States that August. It was written by songwriters Peter Callander and Mitch Murray, who built a fictional story around Prohibition-era gang violence loosely inspired by the legend of Al Capone. Despite its specific references to Chicago streets and a shootout between police and gangsters, the events described in the song were invented rather than based on any documented historical incident. The song became one of the biggest American hits by a British act that year, even though it performed more modestly back in the group's home country, where a different single from the same period became their bigger domestic success. Paper Lace was managed and produced by the same songwriting team behind several other UK pop hits of the era, and this song's success in America helped introduce the group to an audience they otherwise struggled to reach. Because the lyrics blend real historical imagery with entirely fictional details, the song has occasionally been cited by music historians as an example of how loosely true crime-style storytelling could be handled in mainstream pop songwriting during the 1970s. Some listeners at the time assumed the events described were based on an actual documented shootout, given how specific and detailed the lyrics were about street names and law enforcement casualties. But no such event matching the song's description has ever been found in Chicago's historical record. Callander and Murray were known for writing catchy, story-driven pop songs for multiple UK acts throughout the 1970s, often prioritizing a strong narrative hook over strict historical accuracy. The song's massive American success compared to its more modest reception in Britain remains one of the more unusual chart stories of the decade, and it's still occasionally used as a teaching example of how fictional storytelling can be mistaken for historical fact when wrapped in a convincing melody.
I heard a pray the night Chicago died.
Number 8. Timothy by the Buoys.
Timothy, where are you?
Released in 1970, this song was written by Rupert Holmes early in his songwriting career, years before his own performing success later in the decade. The lyrics describe 3 men trapped in a mine collapse, with only 2 eventually emerging, leaving listeners to draw their own uncomfortable conclusions about what happened to the third man. Several radio stations initially refused to play the song once the implication became clear, but the resulting controversy only drew more attention to it, and it eventually reached number 17 on the Billboard Hot 100. The band's label reportedly leaned into the controversy rather than distancing themselves from it, recognizing that the attention was translating directly into record sales. The Buoys were a relatively obscure group from Pennsylvania, and this remains their only major national hit. Holmes has spoken in later interviews about how the success of this song, despite its unusual subject matter, gave him early confidence as a professional songwriter before he became known for his own performing career later in the decade. It stands as one of the clearest examples of a genuinely dark theme finding its way onto mainstream pop radio during that period. Some program directors reportedly played the song specifically because of the controversy surrounding it, recognizing that listener curiosity about the implied ending was driving requests even from stations that had publicly criticized the lyrics. The label supporting the release, Scepter Records, leaned into that attention rather than trying to soften the song's reputation, and the resulting sales numbers proved the strategy had worked. Holmes has said the song's success taught him an early lesson about how a strong, unresolved narrative hook could carry a pop song much further than a conventional love story, a lesson that stayed with him for years afterward. Number 7, Ben by Michael Jackson. Released in 1972 as the title song for the horror film Ben, a sequel to the earlier film Willard, this song was written by Don Black and composer Walter Scharf specifically for the movie's soundtrack. The film centers on a boy's friendship with a trained rat, and the song plays over the film's closing scenes performed by a 13-year-old Michael Jackson. It became his first #1 single as a solo artist on the Billboard Hot 100, a significant milestone that came while he was still primarily known as a member of the Jackson 5. The song was nominated for both an Academy Award and a Golden Globe for Best Original Song, and Jackson performed it live at the Academy Awards ceremony in 1973. Despite its unusual origin as the theme to a film about a killer rat, the song itself is a gentle, sincere ballad about friendship and loyalty, with no direct reference to the film's darker plot. It remains one of Jackson's most tender vocal performances from his early solo years, and many listeners who grew up with the song on the radio never realized its connection to a horror movie at all. The film itself performed modestly at the box office and has largely faded from popular memory while the song went on to have a life entirely independent of its source material. Jackson later performed the song frequently throughout his career, long after most audiences had lost any awareness of the story it was originally written for. Motown reportedly saw the film tie-in as a useful opportunity to showcase Jackson as a solo artist separate from his brothers, and the strategy proved successful well beyond what anyone might have expected from a song attached to a low-budget horror sequel. Number 6, Muskrat Love by Captain Antonelli.
Looks like Muskrat love.
Released in 1976, this song was actually written several years earlier by Texas singer-songwriter Willis Allen Ramsey, who recorded it under the title Muskrat Candlelight for his self-titled 1972 album. The band America recorded their own version in 1973, but it was Captain Antonelli's rendition, featuring husband and wife duo Daryl Dragon and Tony Tanilla, that became the biggest hit, reaching number 4 on the Billboard Hot 100. The song describes a tender romance between two muskrats, complete with candlelight and dancing, set to a soft, easy listening arrangement typical of mid-1970s pop radio. Dragon, known for his work as a keyboardist and arranger, added distinctive synthesizer sounds meant to mimic the chirping and squeaking of the muskrats themselves, a detail that became one of the song's most memorable and most parodied features. The song was a commercial success despite mixed reactions from critics, some of whom found its subject matter difficult to take seriously, next to the more polished romantic ballads dominating the charts at the time. It remains one of the most recognizable examples of a soft rock love song built around an entirely unexpected pair of characters. Ramsey, who wrote the original version, reportedly had mixed feelings about how far his song traveled from its folk origins by the time it became a mainstream pop hit, though the royalties from Captain Antonelli's version provided him with a level of financial security rare for songwriters working in his corner of the music industry. The song became closely associated with the duo's broader image as purveyors of gentle, family-friendly pop, following their earlier #1 hit, Love Will Keep Us Together, and it helped solidify their reputation as one of the most successful adult contemporary acts of the mid-1970s.
Looks like Muskrat love.
Number 5, Seasons in the Sun by Terry Jacks.
We had joy, we had fun, we had seasons in the sun.
Released in 1974, this song was an English-language adaptation of the French song Le Moribond, originally written by Belgian singer-songwriter Jacques Brel in 1961. American poet and songwriter Rod McEwen wrote the English lyrics years before Jacques recorded his version, and earlier, English adaptations had already been recorded by other artists, including a version by the Kingston Trio in the 1960s. Terry Jacques, a Canadian musician who had previously been part of the duo The Poppy Family, recorded his own arrangement and released it as a solo single, reaching #1 on the Billboard Hot 100 in March 1974. The lyrics describe a dying man saying farewell to the people in his life, a considerably darker theme than the song's light sing-along melody would suggest to a casual listener. Jacques has said in interviews that he was partly inspired to record the song following the death of a close friend, giving the recording a personal significance beyond its commercial success. Despite its heavy subject matter, the song became one of the best-selling singles of the decade, proving that a cheerful arrangement could carry lyrics dealing directly with mortality straight to the top of the charts. Jacques reportedly worked for weeks refining the English adaptation to make it feel less bleak than some of the earlier, more literal translations of Brel's original French lyrics, softening certain lines while keeping the overall theme of farewell intact. The song topped the charts not only in the United States, but in numerous other countries as well, becoming one of the most commercially successful releases in Canadian music history at the time. Its combination of a simple, hummable melody with genuinely somber subject matter made it stand out from the more straightforwardly romantic material that dominated much of the era's easy listening charts.
We had joy, we had fun, we had seasons in the...
Number 4, The Streak by Ray Stevens.
Oh yes, they call him the streak. Best thing.
Released in 1974, this song capitalized directly on the streaking fad that swept college campuses and public events across the United States that year. Stevens, a Nashville-based artist already known for comedic and novelty recordings throughout the 1960s and 1970s, wrote and recorded the song quickly to take advantage of the trend while it was still front-page news. It reached #1 on the Billboard Hot 100 in May 1974, becoming one of the fastest-rising novelty hits of the decade. The song is structured as a mock news report, with Stevens voicing a flustered radio announcer describing streaking incidents as they supposedly unfold in real time. Its comedic timing and reliance on current events made it feel almost like a piece of topical satire rather than a traditional pop song, something rarely attempted with this level of commercial success. Stevens had a long history of blending comedy with music, including earlier hits built around similarly offbeat premises, and this song became the most successful example of that approach in his career. It remains a clear time capsule of a very specific, short-lived cultural moment that most younger listeners today have to have explained to them entirely from scratch. Stevens reportedly wrote and recorded the song within a matter of days once he recognized how quickly the streaking trend was spreading across news broadcasts nationwide, racing to get the single into stores before public interest in the subject inevitably faded. That speed paid off, and the song became one of the fastest climbs to #1 that year, a testament to how closely novelty music could track real-time cultural events during a period before that kind of quick turnaround was common in the recording industry. Stevens continued releasing comedic material for decades afterward, but this song remained the clearest example of his ability to turn a passing fad into a genuine commercial phenomenon.
Oh yes, they call him the streak. Best thing.
Number 3, Convoy by C.W. McCall. Released in 1975, this song was recorded by C.W. McCall, a stage name used by advertising executive and singer William Dale Fries Jr. It reached #1 on the Billboard Hot 100 in January 1976, riding the wave of citizens band radio culture that had become a genuine nationwide phenomenon during the trucking industry's fuel crisis years. The song is built almost entirely around CB radio slang and trucker jargon, structured as a story told through radio chatter between a group of truckers organizing a massive convoy to avoid speed traps and tolls. Fries had originally created the C.W. McCall character for a series of bread commercials in the early 1970s, before turning the persona into a full recording career. The song's popularity helped push CB radios into mainstream popular culture well beyond the trucking industry, with home use of the devices spiking noticeably in the months following its release. Its success was significant enough that it inspired a 1978 feature film of the same name, loosely based on the song's story and starring Chris Christopherson. For many listeners at the time, the song was their first real introduction to the specific slang and culture of long-haul trucking. Fries has said in later interviews that much of the CB jargon used throughout the song was drawn directly from real conversations he'd overheard on the radio while researching the advertising campaign that first introduced the C.W. McCall character. The song's massive crossover success surprised even his own record label, given how dense and specialized the terminology was for listeners unfamiliar with trucking culture. Its popularity also coincided with a broader wave of trucker-themed films and television throughout the mid to late 1970s, with this song often credited as one of the key cultural triggers behind that trend. Number 2. Escape, the Pina Colada song by Rupert Holmes.
If you like pina coladas.
Released in 1979, this song tells the story of a man who responds to a personal ad in a newspaper, only to discover that the woman who placed it is his own partner. It reached number 1 on the Billboard Hot 100 in October 1979, becoming the final number 1 song of the decade in the United States. Rupert Holmes wrote, produced, and performed the song himself, drawing on his background as a songwriter for other artists throughout the earlier part of the 1970s. An early version of the lyrics originally referenced a well-known ice cream brand by name, but the reference was changed before release due to concerns over using a trademarked product without permission, leading to the Pina Colada reference that ultimately gave the song its popular title. The song's structure, built around dialogue and a twist ending, was unusual for a chart-topping pop single, closer in some ways to a short story set to music than a typical love song. Its success helped cement Holmes' reputation as a songwriter, capable of blending clever, conversational storytelling with genuinely catchy pop arrangements, a skill he had already demonstrated years earlier while writing for other artists. The song's twist ending was unusual enough that some radio programmers initially worried listeners would find the format confusing for a 3-minute single, but the story's clarity and catchy chorus won over audiences quickly. Holmes recorded the song relatively quickly after writing it, reportedly finishing both the music and lyrics within a short window before bringing it into the studio. Its chart-topping run at the very end of 1979 gave it the distinction of closing out the decade's list of number 1 hits, a fitting bookend for a 10-year stretch that had already produced its fair share of unusual chart-topping songs.
If you like pina coladas.
Number 1. Disco Duck by Rick Dees and his cast of idiots. Released in 1976, this song was recorded by Rick Dees, a Memphis radio disc jockey who wrote and performed the track largely as a novelty, aimed at his own listeners. It reached number 1 on the Billboard Hot 100 in October 1976, becoming one of the most commercially successful novelty songs of the disco era. The song's most distinctive feature was its exaggerated duck-voiced vocal effect, achieved through a combination of vocal performance and studio processing, layered over an otherwise fairly standard disco backing track. Because Dees worked for a radio station under contract with a rival record label at the time, his involvement with the song's release reportedly led to a brief suspension from his own on-air job before the situation was resolved. The single sold well over 1 million copies and helped fuel a wave of disco-themed novelty records that followed in its wake, most of which failed to match its commercial success. Dees went on to a long career in radio broadcasting long after his recording career slowed down, eventually becoming one of the most recognized voices in American radio through his later syndicated countdown programs. The song remains one of the most immediately recognizable novelty hits of the entire decade, instantly identifiable within its first few seconds. Dees reportedly recorded the vocal and character almost as a joke during a slow shift at the radio station, never expecting the recording to reach beyond his own local audience. Once regional interest picked up, larger record labels took notice, and the song was quickly repackaged for national distribution, leading to its rapid climb up the charts that fall. Its commercial success made it one of the defining novelty records of the disco boom. Released at a moment when the genre's mainstream popularity was reaching its peak, and its cartoonish tone offered a lighthearted contrast to the more polished disco productions dominating the same charts around it. Looking back, it's strange how easily these songs blended right in with everything else on the radio at the time, sitting comfortably next to love songs and ballads without anyone thinking twice. If you enjoyed digging into these oddball hits with us, hit that like button and subscribe for more stories from the strange side of music history. Thanks for watching, and we'll see you in the next one.